Yo, welcome to Deuces Wild, where if you're tired of being woke...
Wild.
What did I say?
No, you said it. Yeah, you were right.
Oh, you just interrupted me to be zany? To be goofy this morning?
I've never used silence for zany, but sure.
Yeah, I mean...
I want to get the energy going.
That's how I felt about it. Oh, anyway, Deuces Wild, where if you're tired of being woke, let's take a nap. Let's not off for a second. You don't like it? You looking around. You don't like the slogan?
No, I'm liking where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Just relax. Chill out.
No, it's good. It's good.
It's good. So we were just touching on something.
So you're getting started early. So not that I'm the largest J. Cole fan in the world.
Yeah.
But I do like his music.
Okay.
And I do feel that last project was pretty solid. I liked it. It was a very different sound from him. He was talking his shit. He was in his bag. I digged it.
No, I fuck with J. Cole. J. Cole is talented. It's just that his music can be a bit of a snooze fest at times.
I feel like this one definitely wasn't.
I don't
What
agree.
was that?
That's a gasp.
Oh, I
can't believe
a heart
it.
attack.
No, I just don't. A lot of music today is
Pride
a lot
the
of
devil. That was a pretty solid song. You might not remember it, but
no, I don't remember the words. Like I have nothing like stamped in my memory because it's unmemorable. It's not. It's like 85 South. Like the first couple of songs are decent, and then like all of his albums, they just trail off towards the end.
I feel like,
or a lot of albums these days do that.
That's true, but I feel like with J. Cole, if I can play an album, this is just my personal opinion. If I can play an album repeatedly, and I genuinely find myself enjoying the music, I think it's pretty good.
I mean, that's on a personal level, yeah. I mean, everybody has that. Like,
nah,
I like Baby King, but I don't necessarily. I'm not gonna sit out here and
I can't play that constantly
and beat my chest about Baby King because I know it's very niche. It's just for me.
I can't. But that's okay.
That's Kendrick's cousin, so it's very Kendrick Lamar.
Baby Kendrick. It's Kendrick.
Yeah, it's
not
Kendrick
knocking the kid. They sounded like he has influences is obvious.
Yeah,
I'm just always interested in you and another friend of ours who's very hard on J. Cole. I get your critique.
Yeah,
because I forget the one project. Not that we want to talk about this.
KOD.
That may have been what it was.
Yeah,
that one I was like, I get the critique. It's the content. I get where he's doing.
Yeah,
it's important, but I have to admit, sonically, I was bored. I'm not gonna lie.
It's not him. It's the sound of the whole thing, which he's a part of. So I guess it's him.
But okay,
yeah, he's snooze fest.
Yeah,
You definitely take a nap with that shit. It definitely falls in line with our show. Take a nap. Listen to J. Cole.
Damn.
I mean, he's woke though. I as a dude, yeah, he's doing the right things. He's got his own shoe. He's with Puma, blah, blah, blah. But his music, I'd rather listen to someone else.
Okay.
And right now, like, I don't get it from one artist anymore. Kendrick is, I don't know what he's doing, taking a sabbatical, whatever the fuck. So I have to, like, piece other, like, different rappers together. So Lil Wayne and Rich the Kid got a project out, Trust Fund Babies, which is decent. So I got to pull from, like, random people and just try to find something I like.
Is it vintage Wayne or is it Wayne going on fumes? Because Wayne kind of, I won't say he's fallen off.
Well, vintage Wayne is from a bygone time in rap. Like,
I don't think it is.
Nah, bars ain't what they used to be.
Bars, if you're listening to the, I won't say right content, a certain type of artist, it's still there.
This is a quick gauge of where my boy is coming from, because I know him. Griselda, would you say Griselda is the music that Griselda makes? I appreciate it, but is it modern music?
I don't think so.
No, it's from a bygone time.
I wouldn't say it's bygone. I would say to your point, people just are copying what's like really what sells and pushes numbers and streams. I hear that. But I personally like Griselda's music. Am I in these streets? Can I go like, oh yeah, I'm whooping niggas' ass selling drugs? No. But I enjoy like the effort they put into the music.
Griselda is a new Wu-Tang.
I like that.
It's like a Wu-Tang very in the basement.
But they don't sound dated to me. It doesn't, like one thing with Logic, I know was that I liked Logic back in the day, but he sounded like he was trying to replicate Trap Called Quest, other types of music.
Now when you started doing trap beats, when you started being on trap beats, he wasn't doing that no more. The difference with Griselda is they sound like this old New Yorker, which we've moved on from. Like the South is winning now. So everything sounds country. quote unquote country or southern.
I wouldn't say Griselda sounds dated though. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't listen to the music and go like, this sounds like a song that came from the 90s.
It gives me Wu-Tang. It gives me new Wu-Tang. Like if Wu-Tang came out with shit today, they would sound like that. That would be the sound.
They do.
They still do come out with shit, and it sounds like
to me it doesn't. To me, Wu-Tang, I still love the different projects that come out. Well,
and then you got to understand, like Griselda's still using new producers. Those producers are just intelligent enough to make old shit.
But what I'm saying is that to me, when I listen to like Ghostface, like some of his latest projects, I like them, but they don't sound. They sound like Ghostface trying to rap on like modern beats.
Yeah,
it's not bad, but
Method Man does that shit too.
And it's not bad, but to me, when I listen to Griselda, it sounds more natural.
It is bad, Al.
I won't say it's bad.
It's horrible.
Okay,
it's like Jay-Z and Nas doing that shit. You sound like a dinosaur in a car. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Whoa.
You're trying to put something that's old and something that's modern. No, it doesn't, huh?
The new Nas album, I thought was solid.
That's fine. People can buy that shit all they want to. It doesn't... It sounds weird.
Like it?
No, I like some of the songs, but I'm talking about you coming out with an album. You're not coming out with an EP. So I'm listening to an album, and your album sounds funny when you got this mix of old and new, and you're just not really conceptualizing in a way that I can listen to it straight through. No, I have to pick a song here and there and then get off of it and go to something else. And back in the day, you used to just be able to put a CD in your Walkman and go to school. Or go to work, or go to wherever.
Walkman, all right, Grandpa.
I'm telling you about back in the day. I clearly use the words back in the day. I've outdated myself. That's fine. I'm a grown-ass man. I'm not a kid.
I had to call you on the telephone.
I was born in 1985. This is the thing. Like I remember tapes.
We had boiled eggs with vinegar on them. No, anyway, I get what you're saying. Interesting. I guess a long time ago, I adopted the stance like I have to accept the project for what it is. No artist can stay at that peak level forever. Either, to your point, they just age out. Because Jay-Z and Nas still lyrically are solid, but to your point, they can sound a little off.
It sounds stiff. But it's not their fault because the beats are so busy.
You know who I blame? You know who I blame the fans.
I blame people for everything.
And let me be more clear with that. One thing I don't like about rap culture is that like they treat music as very throwaway. There's like a lot, and I know sometimes we talk about somebody from maybe songs from like the 80s. Okay, but today they're kind of whack now. But I hate like there's always this notion where I don't care what you did like a few years ago, even if it's fire. I only want to hear what's right now. And I'm like, I don't know. You make good music. Good music to me is timeless.
It's that I feel you in that because I feel like a lot of like this is just this generation. They don't care about what came before them. Like I'm like the new show Wonder Years.
Yeah.
First of all, somebody tell Wonder Years that you're just everybody hates Chris. But anyway, the Wonder Years, the new show with black people. I just wish they should have did the Wonder Years based off of someone growing up in the 80s and the 90s. It would allow kids today to have a better appreciation. Like every time we talk about the Wonder Years, we go back to the fucking 60s and early 70s, which I understand. The country changed then. Before the 60s, there was a lot more positivity. Even though we just came off the Great Depression and a war, there was more positivity in America because we came off of that war. And we felt triumph. So in the 60s, you got Kennedy getting assassinated. You got another candidate, one of his brothers getting assassinated, politicians getting assassinated, leaders getting assassinated, serial killers popping up. It's kind of a change of the world, right? So I guess I understand of bringing that all to the forefront for the Wonder Years, but I just feel like it's too far back. These kids have no appreciation of something as recent as the 80s and the 90s. It's a very poor appreciation. Like back in the 80s and the 90s when we were growing up, we would listen to James Brown. We would listen to Stevie Wonder, and we liked that music. We appreciated it. We didn't shit on it.
Yeah.
Hip-hop sampled it.
Yeah.
But nowadays, people don't give a fuck about who Rakim is. They don't give a fuck about Notorious B.I.G. anymore. Tupac
you think so?
Yeah, people are getting tired of the Tupac and Biggie shit. Like, young kids don't want to hear that shit no more. Their favorites are, their GOAT is probably Jay-Z.
Okay, I would say Pac music does sound more dated than Big's.
Well,
So I get from their perspective, like sonically, they're like, what is this?
Tupac was all emotion. It was like watching Allen Iverson on a hip hop record. he's all heart and like all the technical shit out the window because I got all this talent.
Mm. But the music itself is a time capsule.
The beats is just, it's just not. See, even with Big, what you do is when you sample, and even Tupac got these songs that those samples that you hear, those samples.
Mm-hmm.
Those are classic, timeless songs because those samples ring throughout time. Those old school hits ring throughout time. Bad Boy did more of that.
That's true.
Than wherever Tupac was because he's on several different labels throughout his career.
I felt like when Dre was there, they did sample some of the West Coast.
Man, Dr. Dre didn't even like Tupac. Let's talk about that. Didn't even want to give him California Love. He was pissed off at the fact that he had to give him that shit. And I would be too. That's a fucking masterpiece. And he wanted to do something with it himself. And Suge said, no, that's for Tupac.
I mean, that's a smart move, though.
I mean, it's a smart move because, but I trust Dr. Dre's moves. If he felt like he wanted to use it for a Chronic 2 or something or whatever the fuck he wanted to do, I would have trusted that. Dr.
Dre is undoubtedly one of the greatest producers.
The greatest hip-hop producer of all time. Because he has himself produced acts that have produced acts that have produced acts.
I don't know.
He's produced the most successful acts.
Hands down. So I'm defining it by just sheer talent, not success. Clearly success-wise, I can't really think of anybody who would rival him.
Okay, so just talent-wise, if you go just talent-wise, first of all, it's very subjective.
Okay, talent with success. Maybe not his success, but DJ Premier to me is a legendary.
Nowhere near.
Nah, I disagree.
Oh my God.
He doesn't have the same sort of like commercial success, but Premier
he has
still
no
fire.
Crossover.
He doesn't have to have crossover. I said no.
No. I'm saying even to another genre. I didn't say he has to be pop music. Even to another genre at all.
It
does matter.
Hip-hop. Not for me.
Okay, you just talking about hip-hop producers.
Hip-hop.
Because you said producer.
Well, Dre's known as a hip-hop producer. That's what he's known as.
But Dre produces hip-hop by using other genres like funk or whatever else. DJ Premier is just on a beat machine with a turntable.
And still fire.
It's very basic beats, though. That's what the fuck I'm talking about. The 1980s and 90s beats.
Premier, with the stuff he did with Royce.
Prime
fire.
Sounds like something out of the 90s.
Come on, bro. You killed me.
No, I'm fine. No, it's fire. I have appreciation for the music, but it sounds like something out of the 90s.
Fire.
Barely have hooks.
Fire.
Okay, you like that. You like it. You like it. That doesn't make it...
I like it.
I like it too.
Rejuvenated Royce's career. Outside
Royce.
That rejuvenated, or at least gave people more look. Hey, Premier's like
rejuvenated
fire.
To what? Because what is he doing now?
Say in the sense of like Royce had a very niche following up until that time.
It's still niche because it's it's old school hip hop.
It grew though because it's like, oh wait a minute, he's spitting.
It's Griselda. It's that shit all over again.
I feel like you're displaying, like you may be discounting that because some of the kiddies don't like it.
Well, you said that rejuvenated his career.
Yes, meaning cats outside who are...
An artist's career can only be rejuvenated, become more popular, and he hasn't really.
I think he has. I think he's healthily...
Amongst 35 and up?
No, I think amongst people who are younger who also like that genre of hip-hop, but also his core fan base. I think that's one of the mistakes, you're not saying this, mistakes that we make in hip-hop is that if you aren't Billboard, then you're like, oh, you're trash, you're whack. It's like, no. No, I think there is a pretty good number of artists who may never crack that whole Drake, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole kind of stratosphere, but they have a very solid career and they have a good, solid fan base and they make good music.
But there is a certain success is going to be measured in a way by how popular the music is.
It depends.
Because it has to reach ears.
Success, I guess it depends how you define it.
Because, you could come out with an album every year and 5 people love that shit and going to talk about your shit every day, but it doesn't grow past those 5 people.
Tech Nine has a cult following. Tech Nine does very well. So
Tech Nine is very niche.
Now,
he's very niche.
Is he ever going to be Jay-Z level success? Probably not.
You keep putting the rock on his shit, he's going to stop being successful.
But what I'm saying is he has like a core, like you found that group. and I know we got to transition out of stuff, but this is my thing. I think like a Tech Nine is a perfect example of like you don't have to necessarily reach every single person who listens to like the music, like the type of genre you're in or kind of in.
Mm-hmm.
You just find that core group of people who really rock with your stuff.
I know one thing, Al.
And you will make a very good living. He's made millions.
I know one thing, Al. If this podcast only has a niche following, I'm blaming that shit on you because that's what you believe.
Hey, listen, man. I believe in art has quality, not quantity. Now, don't get me wrong. I hope that it blows up. People love it. Awesome. But I'm not doing this with the stance of like, oh, I want to be the next Brilliant Idiots, Joe Rogan, whatever you want to call it.
No, I mean, I don't do that. I mean, it's a good...
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You don't want to come here and 5 people listen every... That's it. I feel you.
That shows no growth. That's like a company... Like, what company does that?
I mean, I feel like companies take a slow... Most companies are a slow burn.
Companies push... Like, a lot of the ones I've been at, working for, they push growth every day. Every day. Grow. And I'd be like... And for me, I'd be like, you ain't never happy with what you got? No, because every day we have to push to be bigger. And that's just a mindset, though.
But depending on your industry, that makes sense, and sometimes that can be a flaw. You can grow to be too big and lose exactly what makes you special.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Amazon.
Well, Amazon just... What are you talking about? Amazon's their core business.
Behemoth.
Their core business has always been their focus.
Books?
Selling online.
Oh, because books used to be their focus. And they grew.
The whole thing was selling online. That grows.
Now they sell people groceries from
selling online.
The internet.
It's all based on this core principle.
I mean, that's everybody's core principle. Now, if they're smart, they should be online.
But that was like their framework.
Yeah.
I feel what you're saying, though. You just have to grow.
You grew past that book shit. Now that you sell everything.
But what I'm saying is like that art and business art, there's a link, but they aren't the same.
I mean, yeah, I feel you. Like, you have to be an artist, but then you also have to be successful. So that business mindset also has to be there.
There's a whole lot of artists that don't have business mindsets, and maybe that's why their careers aren't where they are.
Yep.
So anyway, that did not know J. Cole would spark this.
Man, J. Cole is
for real style debate. No,
he's polarizing.
Yeah, he is.
For a lot of people, it's like you either love him or you hate him, and I'm just like meh. And a lot of people, if you're a meh on somebody, they just automatically assume that you're hating.
Mm.
Somebody else I'm meh on is Kyrie Irving.
So go a little deeper. What do you mean?
He doesn't ruffle my feathers or frustrate me like some people. Like they act like as though because he says certain things, and he's getting like he's forcing a reaction. Like when he says shit like the Earth is flat. Like
you might believe that.
He literally said in an interview later on, they were like, "You still believe the Earth is flat?" He said, "No, but I had you thinking, didn't I?" He's he's fucking with you at every turn, but then he has strong convictions as well. So with this vaccination thing, I believe that he probably in the beginning was apprehensive about getting vaccinated and probably believing a lot of bullshit that was being said, a lot of propaganda as far as the government's putting weird shit in the vaccinations or whatever. And then as the public created this fake outcry about his vaccination status, he probably, at this point, he's so dug in and is just saying, fuck you. This is where I'm at with it. This is where I'm going to be. I don't care if you go try to take that away from me. You're not going to take that away from me because, I mean, at some point, I feel like if you just allow him to sit still, he's going to end up getting vaccinated. If you take basketball away from him long enough and he just sits there and has to think about it, he's going to get vaccinated because basketball is the most important thing in his life. That's why he is where he is.
True.
I don't understand this vaccination thing. I think we touched on this last week. If you're vaccinated and that person isn't, why are you afraid of that person giving you the virus because you're vaccinated?
Mutation. The possibility of mutation.
It's already mutated past the vaccination anyway. The vaccines that we have, we're past the Delta variant. And the Delta variant isn't even covered by the vax.
But that's part of their point, is that because of the slow roll of people wanting to adhere to it, you increase the chances of things of it multiplying it or it varying.
So is this thing supposed to die off when everyone gets vaccinated?
That's the general premise. Or at least enough people get vaccinated to where those who get it, who recover, they have a natural immunity. Those who are vaccinated have less of a chance of getting it, and it has nowhere to spread to. That's the general premise that we're going with.
Okay. Because the flu hasn't worked that way.
The flu also no longer kills people by the millions at the same rate it did a long time ago.
Okay.
People still die from the flu.
Yeah, exactly. It's
But-
the same types of people that die from the COVID. Older people and babies and people who are immune compromised. Same types of people die from the flu.
But the flu has gotten to a point now where sometimes they get it wrong, sometimes they get it right in terms of the vaccine's effectiveness.
COVID-19 is nothing but a new version of SARS. We've moved past SARS without everyone getting vaccinated.
But I think people, okay, I'm going to say this. I think as a layperson, not saying this to you, but to myself, me thinking I know better than those who devote their lives to how to combat these illnesses, viruses, the best way to treat them, like me going against them like vehemently, like, no, you're wrong. I read an article, now I know more than you know with your years of study.
Well, yeah.
I'm like, you can have your convictions. You can. But at some point, I have to go, do I know better than those who spend their lives? I spent 20 minutes reading about this.
That's true. Yeah.
They've spent the last 20, 30 years, X amount of time in school or whatever it is, from direct experience. You got to have to trust the system at some point.
Trust the system.
At some point, you have to. Because you do in some ways.
I mean, yeah, all the shit. Like, what the fuck I'm drinking? I'm drinking a Red Bull. What's in that shit? So, I mean, at some point, you do trust your system. I'm just looking at it from his point of view that instead of being so focused on whether or not he's vaccinated, isn't there something better to be focused on? I think a lot of this is going to a direction in which we are not respecting people's privacy.
But I guess, okay, so that's what I wanted to get, really wanted to get to. So then, in the case of Kyrie Irving, it was, you're like impeding on my right to choose that I want to do with my body. You're making choices for me.
Which is a weird stance for a liberal, from a liberal point of view.
I feel like, in a weird way, it's in line. Just like liberals would fight against those who say women shouldn't get abortions.
That's what I was just going to say. Liberals will fight against people who say you shouldn't get an abortion, my body, my choice, until it has to do with the vaccine.
But those are two very different things, though.
That's true. But it's still the same concept.
Well, it's a false equivalency in that sense. If you're saying, a woman saying, I want to choose whether or not I want to give birth to a baby versus to getting a vaccine, it's very different. Because her having a baby doesn't directly impact anyone outside of herself.
That's not true.
That is true. Indirectly.
A lot of situations, a woman having a baby with not knowing who the father is, or the father is a rapist or X, Y, and Z, that child can be a burden on that mother's life, that mother's mother, that mother's family.
But that's the
other people,
society.
Through government assistance, the rest of America, we have to pay for these babies out of wedlock to be supported. In a lot of cases, it does directly affect other people, or even if it indirectly affects. His vaccination is indirectly affecting people too, because if he still quarantines and follows all his protocols, he's supposed to be off by himself.
At this point in my brain, I was talking to my wife about this because she isn't she's a labor lawyer. This is more of a labor issue now.
And that's what he says. He said he's speaking for people in other industries who are going through this too.
But the thing is, Kyrie has the luxury of sitting out. He does. That's not necessarily pro or con to anyone else, but he has the luxury of I can forego X amount of dollars, while I play this out. The person who's a truck driver, the person who does who lives paycheck,
exactly,
doesn't have the liberty to pull a Kyrie Irving.
Yep.
I understand, hey, I don't think it's fair that you're mandating I need to get vaccinated to do my job.
Yep.
I understand that. But at some point, it's what's more important to you?
Yeah, so
the illusion of freedom or doing what you have to do to survive? Because you're not really free.
Nobody is. So that's another thing. Okay, so I'm glad you said that, because let's stop acting like we're this place where our rights matter when they really don't, when when people pick and choose when they do and when they don't matter.
Your rights matter as long as it doesn't impede the larger portion of society.
And that seems to be a little whimsical, whether or not it impedes somebody else. It's based off somebody else's feeling that it impedes me.
I feel like, not being a sociologist, but I think I'm cool if me and you live in a society. I'm cool if you do whatever you want as long as it doesn't somehow negatively impact me.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to, I don't know, what's a random example? You want to burn trees on your land.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. But if you start burning those trees to a point where it's now affecting my land, it's like, whoa, playboy, you got to cool off.
I don't know how much this relates, but what if you wanted to create a Netflix special where you speak your mind about a certain group of people? Does that affect someone else in a way that is actually tangible and not just an opinion being spoken as a First Amendment right?
Well, he's not breaking any rights. We were talking about the Dave Chappelle special where he's speaking about, his some views of experiences with, the trans.
If they pull his shit down, they're breaking his First Amendment right.
If Netflix was to cave to the pressure, that would be, in my opinion, the wrong move.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in the case of the Dave Chappelle special, I watched it. I found it funny.
Hilarious.
And then, I saw some of the backlash. I was like, okay, let me watch it again with, the new perspective and kind of, listen. And I can see there were some parts of the jokes that were okay, that was a little offensive. It's comedy. There's a fine line between offensive and
it's like, okay, so
an observational
it's
humor.
directly offensive sometimes on purpose.
But I think overall, if you watch the special, there's a clear story and narrative and message he's giving.
Yep.
And I'm like, after watching it again and looking back at the critiques, I'm like, you guys aren't actually listening to what's being said.
Nope.
You heard a term or a joke you thought was offensive, then that framed the entire rest of your viewing experience.
And it highlights the racism. It highlights racism in a way that they have skipped the line. And that was basically his whole message is we have been doing X, Y, and Z for equal rights for so long, but it gets ignored. And then this group steps up, and because of the members of the group, it gets directly handled or approached. You may still feel like bad things happen to members of the LGBTQ community, but the overarching theme is that it's wrong. When something happens to a black man, that's not the theme. It's always, well, what did he do? Which was his point. Why aren't we people just like your people? And it's a concept and a thing that's way more. You have to extend a little more to be understanding of, other than the color of someone's skin, where they came from. It's kind of simple, cut and dry. I come from this place, so I have brown skin. I'm a black man. It's not that cut and dry on the other aisle. So we have to extend more latitude there and be more understanding. So how did we get to that point and just completely skip over something as simple as the color of one's skin?
Okay, I got a few thoughts. So I think the first is the intentional focus initially was that there was a black activist group that was calling for the Dave Chappelle to be canceled and his special be taken down to combat the very thing you're talking about, where, this is there's some kind of racial undertone issue. I'm like, one of the observations I've had discussions about is, how do I say this? The majority of any group, whether we're talking trans community, gay community, the community, American society as a whole, is okay with the other being ethnically, whatever your difference is, as long as you forego your otherness to get with the group dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're black and trans and you forego the black part and just accept the trans struggle, you're part of the crew. But we start getting to the nuances of hey, being black and trans, there's some extra levels here that you can't on your island. So I feel that oftentimes people from that community who are black, I'm talking about solely black people in this scenario, are forced to choose. And frankly, it's probably a better choice to choose your sexual sexuality.
Why? Why is that a better choice?
Because the majority of America, kind of to your point, they're affected by this. So by default, you're getting in line with the program.
Oh, so you're saying that
I can relate to your struggle. Hey, if you're trans and you're black, I'm white, I can get down with the whole, yeah, we're trans.
they kind of have a choice of what demographic to be a part of. So they choose the winning side.
Because if you start listening to some of the arguments, they'll start mentioning things that, I'm like, well, who's oppressing you? Specifically, who's doing that? Well, them. Who is them? Who are you talking about? You're not talking about Tyrone down the street. No. Tyrone may say some stupid shit to you,
but he can't oppress you.
He can't physically. He can't actually do anything. Now, of course, there's violence that can occur, but it's a different topic. So yeah, I think I think it's much easier for me to identify with you if we have some commonality. And to your point, some people can't look past if the only difference between you and somebody else is race, depending on where they're from. It may be hard for them to sort of get to your level because they go, well, I don't have some of the struggles Tristan has. Nobody I know has it, so I don't really know what to do with that. Mm-hmm. So it's easier just to ignore it, frankly.
No, that's deep. I don't know. I would have to think on that some more just from the standpoint of, I feel like that's kind of the move. Anybody who has a choice, it's always to disparage the black part of you. Sage Steele, for example.
Oh, boy.
Does that all the time.
I don't get Sage Steele. I don't understand it.
It's like, if it's good, it's because it's from my white side, and if it's bad, it's because it's from the black side.
To be honest, I don't know her background. Did she have an experience where, like, she was ostracized?
I don't know. I don't know her personal story, but I just know that when I see her rhetoric, it's always pro-nationalism, military, these white talking tropes. And anybody who's listening to us knows the white talking tropes as opposed to the black perspectives. She always identifies more with the white talking trope.
Now you're getting interesting because I guess depending on the type of black person you're talking to, they might more like. I still think black people are have more in line with the other group than we like to acknowledge. The other group being
the LGBTQ or white?
I'm referring to, in this case, we're talking about not necessarily the alt-right, but those who sheer towards the conservative side.
Yeah.
There's a lot of commonality there where I'm like, other than a few...
That's that Jesus thing, though.
That's a pretty big part of the country.
And that's all based off of slave shit to me. I just feel like Master taught you that shit, and that's all you've ever had here, and you held on to it because you felt like that kept you closer to something. But black man, you didn't. When they took you from your country,
oh boy,
you weren't praising Jesus. Jesus wasn't in your life. Christianity wasn't in your life.
I feel you.
So we've completely abandoned when created a new culture, and our new culture, a big pillar of it is Christianity or the Nation of Islam.
Okay. I'll get there in a second. I will say quickly, though, there is evidence that there were some cultures in Africa that did have a monotheistic sort of faith. Mm-hmm. So the concept of like one God isn't completely foreign to African people. But I feel you. In terms of like the ways, I understand what you're saying. Though.
Yeah.
I have that same struggle.
To be honest, like they all have some version of a Messiah too. But it was not called, it's not some
correct
blue-eyed, blonde-haired
I feel you.
White man. So
we have that same kind of conversation. Like my mom's devoutly religious, and I'm like, I have this struggle where I can't really look at this and go and not think like, wait a minute, how much of this is actually germane to my
or even authentic?
Yeah, I'm like, But anywho, Nation of Islam, they do some good. Mm-hmm. But I do have some concerns with how the organization is structured, how the money flows, some of the things they do.
So you should have that same type of thing with the Christianity with the church. Yeah, it's the same thing. The money flows to a person, not to God
I do. It's
or
just
the community per se.
but sometimes the Nation of Islam is positioned as if like it's like the viable alternative. And a lot of the things you have issues with in your mainstream religions, they don't have. I'm like,
You don't. And you also don't have to be the part of the nation to practice Muslim either.
Well, they practice their own version of Islam.
Of Islam, yeah. You can be a Muslim without being a part of the Nation of Islam, that
That's
actual
true.
group. I mean, just like you could be a Christian without being a Catholic. There's different factions underneath this faith or this religion. I just feel like all of it creates conflict.
It can.
No, it does. Because with this, yes, this is a good side. There are virtues. There are positive aspects of all faiths, except for Satanism, or I don't even understand that shit. But ones that believe in one God, faith-based, family structure, nuclear family structure, all those things.
Nuclear family structure. Careful. You're getting problematic.
Exactly.
You're getting problematic.
Exactly. We can't even do that no more, which makes me think this whole thing is bullshit because now you're tearing down, even in your churches, to be more accepting, you're tearing down this notion of a nuclear family structure, although it's a part of this very pillar. It's a concrete part of your shit. Like, what you just moving this around.
Yeah.
Just like they did with Christmas. Like, if you understand the story of Christmas, Christmas was created to kind of appease the pagan, to kind of bring them into the church.
Hey, man, we'll take on some of your stuff and you come on in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're just making this shit up as you go along. That's how I feel about all of that shit. It's just you making this shit up as you go along. And that's cool if that works for you and it gets you to wherever you need to be. But don't come over here with that shit trying to tell me I'm X, Y, and Z because I don't do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of people do this.
I feel you.
And they're doing the same thing with the vaccination.
Okay.
And people keep saying this.
Wait a minute. That's kind of
but it affects me. But
that's kind of a leap.
If you're vaccinated, you're protected. How is it? It affects them. They're dying from this disease if they don't get vaccinated. That's a personal choice.
But again, understood that the goal is to get what? I think it's 80% vaccination rate. So you're right. There's going to be a 20% that's not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the concern is they aren't seeing the health organizations aren't seeing a fast enough adoption rate because their concern is that, to your point you're bringing up, like, well, you're already seeing variants coming out. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
That's their concern. Like, it's going to keep going because you're not having enough immunity built up. Mm. And the problem is, I'm not a scientist. Like, that's not my field.
Right. So
if someone goes, well, I'm skeptical of that, other than me,
I don't directly question the vaccine. I question people's behavior around it.
Now, to your point.
And it's usually like we're not like, when was the last person we gave shit? Like, what last white person we gave shit about the vaccine? It just seems to be black people. Whatever black person isn't taking this vaccine or is not vaccinated, let's drag them through the mud in the media.
I don't think black culture in general cares about what white people do in that regard.
No, white people care about what black people do, and they create narratives around it.
I would say, if you want to go on that, I would say there could be those who use black attack dogs. I don't want to say that. Yeah, black attack dogs to sort of push a certain agenda. Mm-hmm. Like a Roland Martin or like
Jason Whitlock.
I don't count Jason Whitlock as anything. He's just I don't.
I'm glad you don't. But he does do the same type of thing that Roland Martin
Jason
does.
Whitlock. He does, but
white people do.
My problem with Jason Whitlock is that I'm cool with like having critiques and trying to be edgy and having your different perspective, but it seems like even with like all the information, he still refused to be like, okay, I can understand the other perspective. Like, I'm going to stick to my narrative because this was paying my bills. Mm-hmm. That's what you would say. Still, I don't agree with a lot of stuff you guys say necessarily. I think it's kind of batshit, to be quite honest. But I have issues when people, even when you want to be the contrarian and you refuse to at least acknowledge like the other perspective. Like, it's completely like unreasonable. I'm like, all right.
I spend all my time trying to think from the other perspective. Like, okay, so what is it that I'm not getting? Because I don't get it. And the vaccine thing, even though I am vaccinated, my issue is not the vaccine itself. Now it's the behavior around it. I told my father it's been politicized. He's like, it's not been politicized. No, it has been.
It has been.
It's creating a divide to such that it affects how people deal with each other.
I mean, you created, the term anti-vaxxers has been around before this, but it definitely has like more of a political tone to it.
When I hear it, the symbol, the face for that. Like, it's funny. Like, black people, most of us aren't really anti-vaxxers. We're just scared. Like, we don't know what this thing is. We don't know what the thing is that we're trying to get a vaccine, and it's beating our ass more than it is anybody else.
True.
Proportionally. So we have fear, and a lot of us don't want to react out of fear. Oh, I got to go get this vaccine because I'm scared, and I don't know what this vaccine is. It's another unknown that you're throwing at me.
Mm-hmm. But then my thing would be, I'm cool with that, but then kind of my point before, I'm cool with you getting information from a variety of sources, but when you start, like, not you, when people start touting, like, brother, what's that guy's name? The young Nation Islam guy's name. Brother Rizza Islam, is like your source of, like, why I'm not doing this. I'm like,
I would say this, like, it doesn't. See, people do that too. Like, that's your source. No, it's not necessarily my only source,
because you're quoting that. You're quoting them like verbatim, saying, "We talk to scientists. Well, why don't you just go?"
But
the scientists
why doesn't that person, whoever is influenced by that could be an influencer. That could be fine as one of the influences of why I'm giving this some pause, because I'm hearing other things.
We are selling the new Nikes, the new hotness. I don't need an influencer to push that shit. I'm not trying to buy products. We're talking about health. And wellness.
It's not that. What I'm saying is, it's one of the things that I'm hearing. It's not the only voice that I'm hearing is anti. One of the reasons why I had paused is that there was actually a congressional hearing with a doctor standing up spewing facts about the vaccine.
The lady? I forget her name. What are you talking about?
It's like, you can't mandate this for employment, and you got all these holes in this shit. You got a lot of holes in this shit. Scientifically, I'm not talking about some bullshit they read on the internet. Scientifically, what you actually came out of your mouth. Like, they send me a pack when I got the vaccine. They sent me a sheet that said you could still transmit it. It's not 100%, blah, 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 blah. And with that being said, if it's not 100%, there's still things that's still foggy. When I got it, it wasn't FDA. Well, no, it just got FDA approved. But it hadn't been. It was emergency approved only. Mm-hmm. It gives reason for people to pause and wait.
But my thing would be, instead of talking to a congressional group of people who don't have scientific background, okay, you've got her and other people who are the doctors or researchers who have, their concerns. Mm-hmm. Then have them have a discussion with their peers about this topic. Because the thing is, when you start going into the details, I remember watching that and, reading the comments, like, see, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, guys, you don't know what the fuck you're saying.
I'm listening to her directly. I won't listen to read comments. So people are stupid.
What I'm saying is, even when she's, like, saying certain points, explaining certain parts, certain holes and, like, not certain pieces of the studies she's referencing, mm-hmm. Not you. As a layperson, you don't really understand what's being said there. Mm-hmm. You kind of garner because she's able to articulate it in a way for you to, like, interpret. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, you don't really have the skills necessary to be able to, like, challenge or vet what she's saying. You just have to take it as gospel because she's a PhD.
Right.
So my thing is, like, then have someone or a peer of her or a group of peers have that conversation, because they will be on the same tier or the same level to actually
there should be like a town hall meeting or some type of something where you can give more clear information to people, so everyone's totally not so foggy.
I think I think that's why they go after your Kyrie Irvings. They go, and granted, there's a labor piece of that, obviously. They go after your Nicki Minaj's because they have such a polarizing voices. Mm-hmm. Their concern is that you clearly saw Nicki Minaj. Yeah. She said that, and you have a fucking island people who are gonna go, oh well, Nicki said it.
Nicki's weird.
She is, but
yeah, you're dead and a pedophile. Your brother's a pedophile.
Yeah,
something weird going on there, and I don't know what it is.
It's funny you mentioned that. This is not something we plan to talk about. But there's these two comedians out of Toronto, mm-hmm. Abba and Preach. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Mm-hmm. One's Ethiopian, one's, like, I believe he's Haitian. Mm-hmm. They do comedy, but I honestly know them for their, like, reaction videos. They'll, like, watch a video and they kind of react to it and kind of
I hate that shit.
It's entertaining for me. And normally I don't like watching someone watch a video and then reacting to it.
Yeah.
I feel you.
It's weird.
But they came across something that was, like, really weird. You were talking about, like, the whole pedophilia thing. I don't know this dude's name. I don't know what he does. Mm-hmm. But there was, like, this middle-aged, probably, like, 40s or 50s black dude mm-hmm. who was essentially like started off like, "Hey, I sympathize with R. Kelly." And I was like, I thought it was going to be one of those, the stuff you normally hear.
Ugh.
He was abused as a kid.
Yeah.
The girls were asking for all that dumb shit.
Okay.
Not that abuse doesn't factor in, but at some point you had to take accountability. But it was disturbing because essentially he was admitting to sleeping with underage girls online with his face shown. It's like, I'm like, what do you like? Okay, one, that's a crime. That was my first thought. I was like, bro, you're telling the audience that you're knowingly messing with girls who are underage. Like, you realize that's not okay.
It's not
that's
smart,
That's
sir.
legal. That's illegal.
Illegal, yeah.
And one thing that was weird was he was essentially saying that certain men have appetites, okay? And once you are able to once you actually get a taste of what that world is like, it is hard for you to stop. I was like, what does that mean? Essentially, I'll show you all the gross. It was pretty fucking disgusting. And I don't get disgusted easily, but I was like, bro, I need a shower. This is just disgusting. Essentially, all the benefits of a woman without all the negatives, it was weird.
What?
So, I really don't want to get in. It was.
Well, you get into it.
It's like, it was gross.
Yes, it's gross.
Well,
we understand. We're not gonna judge you. I'm not gonna judge you.
He was essentially saying like,
repeat it.
Gravity hasn't taken over yet. They don't have a lot of
Oh,
experience or anything you do. There's amazing and exciting, and that becomes intoxicating to the guy
First
because
of
it's
all.
like, oh, now you feel.
neither is a 20-year-old. You know how young a 20-year-old is? They barely have any experience too. Why you have to go after a 14-year-old?
I think he was saying for some people.
No, you're sick.
I agree.
You want something impubescent. Like you do have a certain appetite, and that appetite needs to be locked up and you throw away the key.
It was weird. And that to me, when you said like some people, I'm like, I was thinking like maybe like her brother or like the douche with, they were in that category where they just kind of have this thing, this
Fetish?
yeah. So I was like, it was just, yeah.
It's no longer a fetish when you start acting on it. Like you can have a fetish. Nah, I think even if you have that fetish, I think you need to get it checked out. Like I think that if it's something that
You're breaking laws.
Yes,
yeah,
you need to get it checked out.
Need to talk to a therapist and
if it has to do with animals, if it has to do with children, if it has to do with getting gangbanged, like all those fetishes, you need to vet those things out.
Well, the last one, if everybody's consenting, that's your
no,
own
that's
business.
fine, but I
That's
think
your own
that
business.
you still need to have it checked out to make sure it's
That's
just
not my idea of a good time, but
it's not my idea of a good time either. It sounds horrible for everyone involved, but at the same time, I feel like you need to flesh that shit out. You need to talk to somebody because maybe that's coming from somewhere. Maybe you being choked and spanked is coming from some type of dark place, or being gangbanged or being degraded. Maybe that's coming from some type of. You need to get that shit checked out. You got some weird shit going on. You need to talk to somebody about that shit.
I guess it'd be the bangy in that scenario. They may just enjoy it. May just be a good time.
That's fine, but I'm sure there's probably some underlying issue that needs to be hammered out, instead of her just being hammered on.
That
It
might
was
be
too easy for me not to say.
That might be a good Friday night.
That sounds like a horrible Friday.
Listen,
Sounds like a headache Saturday morning.
For people, consenting adults doing what they want to do.
I'm not. Get your shit together.
Okay.
No, I'm just playing.
And I know it's random. Just you saying that, I was like, maybe.
No, I mean we talked about that. Like I've talked about just like, and I don't mean to disrespect anyone. Okay.
Yeah, you do.
Maybe, but just like members. It's sexuality, right? Who you're attracted to. This is sexuality. It's not gender. So let me try to say this the right way because people are listening. Sexuality, such as homosexuality and heterosexuality and bisexuality. Then there's people born with pedophilia. This is the thing that they have. This is not something they could just turn off or something they do because they want to do hood rat things. This is part of their nature and who they are. They are sexually attracted to children.
Okay.
So what do we do about this? Like, what advancement in society have we made? Because we're too busy trying to hide it and not talk about it and being disgusted by it. Like, you actually need to find something real.
But then I feel what you're saying, because it's like, to your point, there is a segment of society that may have this just innate in them.
And it may be larger than we think because it's so taboo.
It's possible.
So what I'm saying is, what do we have in place to really help people? Is there any helping?
I honestly think, I don't think society's really at a point yet where
that's sad.
Openly, but
we can shit on. We can get BBLs. We can turn men into women and women into men, but we can't combat something that's been around for a very long time that we've been hushed on. That's part of the reason with the whole religion thing. Like, it creates these taboos in society we don't even want to talk about and think about. So therefore, we don't address. We don't actually try to help people. We've been trying to lobotomize or do whatever else we can to people with these sick urges, instead of actually trying to create something. I'm sorry, I'm long-winded. We're actually trying to figure out something that actually helps these people, instead of just putting them away for 20 years and they come out and you do the same thing all over again.
So I think you did say sick people, but you meant medically sick, not like, I get what you're saying. I hear you.
Yeah, but I mean, because you don't necessarily, like, there may be a large population of them that know that this is wrong. Matter of fact, they all know. Society's teaching you in so many different ways that this is wrong. That's why you hide it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they would say that they're medically sick too.
Yeah, I would think you are. I think, simply put,
and for me, I'm sorry to cut you off. If I don't say that they're medically sick, then I'm putting them in the same line with those other sexuality groups. And then one day, they'll just be a sexuality group that likes children. And we don't want that.
I've heard that argument.
So I have to say that they're medically sick.
No,
I normalize it if I don't.
I get what you're saying. You're not saying it in a derogatory way. You're more of like, hey, to me, this looks like there may be some type of
trauma
issue there.
Yeah.
Some type of imbalance.
Yes.
And if you don't treat it like you treat any other kind of medical condition, they could potentially use the society being more open to alternative sort of views on sexuality and how things, work or should work. I feel you. I get what you're going.
We already having all that shit challenged now.
I think, honestly, it's kind of like one of the points that Dave Chappelle and others, who've made way before him, when it comes to, I think when things are super complex and layered, like especially you're speaking about, especially with the trans experience, that's a very layered.
Very layered. Because it's not, I remember I was talking to my girl about it, like it has nothing to do with sexuality. It's gender identity.
Yeah, which is a whole, like that.
It's a whole other thing. And then you can have that gender identity on top of a sexuality.
Yep. And we've only had like red or green.
Exactly, for a very long time.
So now we're like, wait, red, green.
And blue and purple.
Yeah, like people.
And blue and purple come from me. Like,
it takes
blue and
time.
purple is very close to each other, so we can't really differentiate.
It's going to take time for society to wrap their heads around it. And I think you're just going to have to accept that it's going to take time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. Okay, so
for a lot of people, this is a very novel. For some, maybe if you live in a large city where there's diverse ideas and opinions, it may not be as taboo. But in certain, like most of America is our small towns.
Black people, we struggle with this.
We do too. But I'm saying, I think black people,
as far as like accepting and getting their minds around it, I think we struggle.
There's layers there
more than
too.
most.
There's layers there too.
So when we talk about, and I know that I said, I know it's a triggering thing for me.
Uh-oh.
So the butt breaking thing. And what you're basically creating there is,
is that real, by the way?
It is real. I've read some accounts in which, so the strategy is, the master takes the head of the household, the male slave, and if he's done something, or maybe if he's just feeling froggy, I guess, he will humiliate him sexually in front of his family.
How does that work? Okay, but wouldn't you have to have some kind of sexual arousal to do the humiliating thing? How are you going to have sex with someone?
The white man bends the black man over a log.
No. But there's still a biological portion where things have to rise. Like
the white man is fully okay with this.
That's what I'm referring to. Like, is it just an excuse to dabble in like your sexual desires?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I get humiliated.
He's a rapist. He's
I
a
was like,
rapist.
so what? You just like men. You're an excuse to
Or just like conquering.
cockring and then wanting to.
Oh,
Anyway, let's get your point. I'm sorry.
case in example. Case in example. This is the last smart shit I'm gonna say, and next I'm just being stupid for the rest of the show. 5 minutes?
We're getting close. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is good stuff. So with like serial killers,
Okay.
they don't necessarily get turned on by the woman that they rape or serial rapists. The woman,
just saying.
it's the violence. It's the whole act in itself.
Gotcha.
Like Ted Bundy would go back to the crime scene or where the burial site is, think about what he did, get hard again, and sexually satisfy himself. Weird shit, right?
Yeah.
But same thing is happening with this sick slave master. He's using this as an excuse to satisfy his sexual proclivities, but he's also destroying someone.
College words, all right.
I did. I went. I gotta use the education.
All right, somebody reading, all right.
So he's humiliating him, breaking that nuclear family because now he's ashamed, ostracizing himself. Who knows who he ends up abusing because he's been abused. And you create this. This is, in my mind, one of the creations of pedophilia being so rampant in the black archetype.
Wait.
Through buck breaking, through sexual deviancy being purported on the female and because the female's getting raped too. If you're going to rape the man, you're going to rape the woman too. Both being raped culturally enough times to where we have this issue in our society kind of at a disproportional rate, just like COVID. We just don't talk about it because we're spiritual, we're Christians. We are taught to hide things that are not godly instead of actually addressing them and getting rid of them or working on them. So you hide this throughout society and you foster an R. Kelly. So we're struggling with this in a way that's twofold. This is something that we see as horrible, so we kind of push it away. And it's been introduced to us through history, through slavery. But not saying that there's not raping and all that didn't go on in Africa beforehand.
But are we discounting? It's interesting. I didn't think about that perspective. Not discounting, but are we downplaying just the inequality that women may have faced? I don't know if I'd say slavery is the reason why women were getting raped. It may just be that.
Well, women getting raped back in the period because women were property, kind of too.
It was more of like and he could argue whether or not that was like,
if you're married, well, let's just say your husband or wife, if you're married to your wife, no one can actually say you're raping your wife if you're raping your wife because it's supposed to be consensual sex when you're married.
At least in those times that was,
but it's still rape.
That was a very distorted view of things. But yeah,
I can't refuse him sex if he wants it, like that type of thing. Like, yes, you can.
Yeah, you can. You totally can, ladies.
My girl, that's all the time. And when she becomes my wife, she'll continue to do it. Probably even more.
Wait till you have kids. If you have kids.
Well,
you got to plan them out.
It's on the horizon, hopefully.
But all right, but no, that's interesting. I'm not even going to challenge you on that one. I've never really thought of that perspective.
You can look into it, because I kind of stumbled up Tariq Nasheed. He pops up on my timeline. He's a little abrasive and a little bit much.
I have a hard time taking historical facts from an ex-pimp. I'm just going to be honest.
It's not just him, though. I was able to actually look up buck breaking in Google and come up with several sources of stories of this shit.
But I just always like, wait, the guy who taught the art of Mackin? I was like, I get it, but
yeah, he's not somebody that I necessarily feel like is a role model.
But I feel you. Just because someone may have a background that's a little unconventional, they may introduce ideas and topics that are legitimate. That's fair.
Exactly.
That's fair.
So yeah, that's where my whole opposition to the whole thing and understanding that black people may have a little bit more of, not opposition towards the LGBTQ community, but just the way black people are being treated as though, or black men, black heterosexual men in particular, are being treated as though we hate them or we wish they didn't exist. We don't want to be a part of them. We're transphobic or homophobic or whatever. You got to understand, in our culture, we've been taught that this is so wrong to the point where we don't want this anywhere near us as a man, especially when a man, you're trying to grow up like a man. A black man is always trying to validate themselves in the society already. So we don't need any of that trying to attach to us.
Masculinity is at a premium.
Exactly.
And anything that challenges that very limited resource is...
We tend to be a little aggressive towards, actually. Yeah. Like, that type of fear. We'll become aggressive. Does not condone the behavior of being abusive towards somebody in that community. But if I could just, explain it a little bit, and so that people... Because I see a lot of black male bashing on the internet. Just we're homophobic, transphobic, we don't treat our women right, we ain't shit, we in jail, we sagging our pants, blah, 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 blah. Not discounting the fact that the same reason why you call a black woman brave, because she's going through a lot of society discriminating, a lot of problems. Yeah. Men are going through a good number of that too. Not all of it, because she's also a woman, so she gets it twofold. But black men also have to go through that, especially with our sexuality. Mm. We were once fetishized upon.
Once?
At one point. Black men too.
Once?
Black men. Well, I mean, still.
I was going to say, like...
I mean, in a way that it still rings true today.
Porn genres that kind of are dedicated to that whole sort of ideal.
Yeah.
Just kind of...
So...
Kind of weird.
I mean...
Yeah.
It's just layered.
This has been a heavy episode.
It has been. It's not supposed to be, man. It's supposed to be funny.
Well, tell a joke.
I'm tired. I want to go home.
Well, that was, man, got Tristan on the soapbox. All right.
Yeah, it's just Red Bull.
Brother X.
Nah.
I'm talking shit.
Don't do that.
But, yeah. We were going to get into the John Gruden thing, but essentially, John Gruden is just a representation of kind of what's been happening in certain circles.
John Gruden is another example of what I'm talking about, because that shit didn't get real until the New York Times article, what he actually said about Roger Goodell, got printed. So over the weekend, we got the lips as big as Michelin tires, which, white people, y'all still do that? Y'all still talk about our fucking lips?
Probably.
Grow up, man. It's 2021. That sounds like something from the 50s or 60s.
If you make a racist joke, make it, if it's funny, I'd get it.
So then it came out that he called Roger Goodell the F word that rhymes with maggot. And then the shit came.
That's when the heat came.
Yep. And that to me feels like, oh, he could call DeMaurice Smith a nigga, but once the F word gets dropped, and that to me, it feels like, are you doing it to them? It's cool. Are you doing it to them too? Nah. It kind of makes me feel like it's okay if you discriminate against a black person.
To your point, I heard more talk about the Michael Sam portion of like that whole story.
Although he went after everybody. He was sending topless pictures of cheerleaders.
Wow.
Via email. He was doing all types of stupid shit.
Damn, John, you're wild.
Get a Gmail account.
Get a BlackBerry or something.
Get off the company computer while you're doing this stupid shit.
Make a lot of money, bro. Get your own phone.
You make too much. You make too much money and too successful to be this stupid. But a lot of football coaches are dumb. I mean, a lot of people in that world are.
Only thing I'll say is
not as smart as you think they are.
I would be shocked. A lot of head trauma. If John Gruden's doing this, I somehow doubt. I think who made this point? Maybe Shannon Sharp. Maybe Skip Bayless. I forget who made the point. I doubt he's in a vacuum saying these comments. People are like, "Hey, John, what are you doing? Stop!
It's going to the owner of the email. On the email chain was the owner of the Redskins. I believe the vice president or president of Hooters.
That's random.
Well, he does promotion with them. He's good friends. He does Hooters commercials.
It's like, what the?
Somebody high up in Corona, because he does, again, he's friends with those people because he does ads for them too. And so I'm thinking, oh, this is a culture of this shit. I mean, that's their group chat. And
that's their group chat.
I've heard worse than all this shit.
That's their group chat.
And people I talk to on a regular daily basis.
So I would say, John Gruden, if you're listening, get a group chat off the company. off the company.
John Gruden, if you're listening, rest on your millions. You'll never get a job again in football.
Give him 4 years.
No.
Give him 4 years.
Nobody wants to be next to that.
For now.
I mean, they probably gave him a good amount of money to go away. Permanently.
The NFL doesn't care. They don't really care about this type of stuff.
They do and they don't.
They have to care
for money.
In terms of keeping the money flowing in, but to feel like they culturally care, they don't give a shit. John Gruden is doing the same thing that everybody's doing. Not almost every single person who works there does all this stuff, but John Gruden is not the only person with his boys saying wild shit and sending pictures. He's not.
No.
He's not. And I'm pretty sure, like the NFL Players Association, release it all. It'll get real.
I also don't think, only because it affects the way the NFL does business and the way John Gruden will have to do business.
Last word in. Go ahead,
yeah,
sir.
This is my last thing I'm going to say. Don't think that, we could talk about this more next time, but I don't think that necessarily what he did what he did in the vacuum constituted him being fired.
Well, you just said it. I think it was...
It's because of the way you affect business.
The Raiders, the hell, he didn't care, the owner. He was like, whatever. He was until at that point, he came back with...
But even all the extra stuff, like, this is stuff that actually gets said all the time.
Yeah.
And nobody's necessarily like, oh my God, he said those things. They're saying that shit, but people think these things. People think worse.
If you were to open up the group chat of the group chat of pretty much most people, men, women, whatever you
no matter what the group is, they got something negative to say about some other group.
There's stuff that get everybody fired.
Yes.
And it's just, I'm not saying that
not suitable for work.
To excuse John Gruden. Hey man, you got caught. You got caught, bro. That's what it is.
You got caught.
But let's not do the whole cultural, this is reprehensible. I can't believe he's doing this. It's like, shut up. Come on.
I can't. I've heard worse.
You will hear worse. This is going to happen again. But, well.
That's been Deuces Wild, another episode.
Man. It's a heavier episode, but yeah.
It's a good one.
All right, make sure you interact with the brand. Comment,
like.
Share with your friends.
Yes.
There'll be some stuff coming that'll, give you guys the opportunity to get more involved.
I think we're going to start putting up polls at some point. Maybe some good poll questions. We're not going to be so rigid and so boring the whole time, but we're growing. I hope you guys grow with us. This has been Deuces Wild. Until next time.